Before we begin, does Kinger remind you guys of Rayman? Just me.
Rayman.
Hi everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Quiet. I like to make animations, make gameplay videos with me and my buddies, and this is some new type of content I wanted to make just to test how good at it I can be. You know, this intro part's written without a script, everything else was. I just stutter a lot on my words. So I hope you enjoy this new type of content from me. Amazing Digital Circus is a show about a woman who gets trapped inside a VR world with 5 other humans, as their AI ringleader leads them on wacky adventures. We follow them through 8 episodes, and all the episodes are about said other humans. As of writing this script for this episode, the movie just got leaked online, so I haven't seen a single spoiler for it. All I know is that the ending is terrible, but then again, it was leaked on Twitter, and I'm not trusting people's opinions from Twitter, because that's dumb. So we're just gonna go over the show real quick, give a quick recap, and then we'll get into like all the interesting stuff that came from the show. The good, the bad, and the other things. So for characters, we got Pomni and Jax, who are the main characters of the show. There's like 6 of these characters, but like only 2 of them are really like people that are the main ones. But then there's also characters like Gangle, Zooble, Kinger, and Ragatha. The AI ringleader's name is Kane, and he forces them to go on adventures because it's what his coding has told him to do.
Is this a cry for help?
When the pilot came out and I saw it, I remember just being like,
that's it?
But the second episode came out and I was like,
that's it?
and then the third episode came out and I was like, the third episode got me hooked onto the show after we focused on someone different for a change. Kinger was already my favorite since he reminded me of Rayman, but this episode is what got me to love him even more. His sad backstory and the fact that he can only remember things in the dark is just so interesting to me because, you know, usually we see these characters in media like Simon Petrikov from Adventure Time, a character who originally is considered crazy but deep down has this serious side to him that can be activated in a certain way, and he's much more deeper than he is on the surface level.
Where is he?
Jake? He's right there.
Man, Ice King, you better roll on.
And to give my honest thoughts on episode 1 and 2, episode 1 is fine. It introduces the characters pretty well, and you know, we don't get too much information about the circus just yet or the characters. It's a perfect pilot and an intro for the series. I think episode 2 is where things get a little iffy for me. Episode 2 starts out pretty well. We learned that Pomni is scared of being forgotten and that the other characters don't really want to remember her or feel like she doesn't belong. But we see that they do, and the ending is really sweet. It's the issue that episode 2 has this really cool centered focus on a character named Gummy Goo, who's an NPC, who realizes his whole reality is fake. That is cool, but it's the second episode in. Doesn't that seem a little out of place to anyone else? This feels like something that should have happened in episode 4, or maybe even later. It feels really out of place for episode 2 to have this type of thing where the AI realizes it's sentient and realizes its only function is to be a fake video game character.
Gummy Goo?
Yes, Pomni?
I can't survive in this digital circus alone.
Don't worry, Pomni, I'm coming for you.
Episode 3 is interesting to me because we focus on 2 characters this time. Gooseworks has said each episode would focus on a character, however some episodes focus on 2. This time we're focusing on Kinger and Zooble. Obviously I've already stated why I like Kinger, his sad, tragic backstory, but I like Zooble more now. When the show first came out, I really did not care for Zooble because it just felt like Jax again, except just really annoying because I just don't like characters that are like, oh, I don't really care, I'm going away. But this really like characterized them for me because not being able to be okay with yourself or not like your body is like very relatable to me. And it's just so upsetting someone can think about themselves like this. It's also very cruel writing that they got the character that can take apart pieces and put pieces on. That's very... That's clever. That's very clever. Episode 4 focuses on Gangle, who's a very relatable character to me, at least, and episode 4 is regarded as the worst, which I would argue is 1 or 2, but you know, I digressed. This episode gives us insight on Gangle's past life before she was in the circus. She was obviously a manager at some fast food chain and didn't feel like she was living her life to her full potential. Something that I can kind of relate to sometimes when I'm at my job, but I mean, the difference is that I continue drawing and making stuff. And honestly, I like Gangle's crazy side with like the crazy little masks she has, and it's just such a shame we only like see another instance of her not acting shy or scared outside this episode and an upcoming episode later on. Episode 5 is also one of those split episodes where we get to see one side of a character and another side of a character. I think Ragatha's whole story arc is split up into 2 episodes, in episode 5 and later on in episode 6. However, episode 5 feels more like a Jax focused episode. We learn more about him and his true feelings and maybe why he acts the way he does. He had 2 friends who abstracted, unfortunately. One that we know about now and one we've known about previously. Kaufmo was the previous friend, a new friend named Ribbit that was given the name to us by Gooseworks. This episode also has a scene where all the characters are at a bar and they talk about events from their lives before the circus, except Jax. Jax just recites the line from Breaking Bad. While it's not useful information, it gives us a timeline of when he joined the circus was probably around the time Breaking Bad came out. We also learned that Ragatha came from an abusive household because of her mother. This episode ends with Pomni and Jax becoming best friends, and this leads on into the next episode, which unfortunately their friendship does not last long. Episode 6 starts with Kane giving everyone in the circus guns as today's adventure. It's just a battle royale and everyone gets into teams of 2. Ragatha and Kinger go first, and Ragatha's arc is finally completed in this episode where we learn that she tries to make everyone feel included or happy the way her mother didn't comfort her. This episode ends with Jax and Pomni winning the competition. In a moment of Pomni trying to appeal to Jax, she tries to do the whole it's time to turn on each other thing, but Jax is okay with her turning on him. Pomni thinks this is very weird because this seems a little out of place for him. While trying to instigate even further, Pomni asks about them being friends and Jax just replies with, "We were never friends." This sets Pomni off and she wrongfully accuses Jax of being the reason why people abstract is because he says things like this to them and this is what causes them to go crazy. Jax then blows up at her for it, but then midway through his reactionary blow up, he just stands there, smiles, and then just doesn't have anything to say afterwards. We learn now, during this scene, this is his coping mechanism. After losing Kaufmo and Ribbit, he actively pushes people away from him because he doesn't want to see them abstract. And anyone would have that rational fear. However, he tries to push people away and be unlikable as possible so people don't want to be his friend. Episode 7 is like the turning point of the series. This is when things finally get down to the story. This just seems like any regular old adventure. It's a beach episode, you know, it's the cliche. However, Pomni notices someone in the distance spying on them. This turns out to be an NPC named Abel, and you can actually spot him in several other episodes just hiding in the background waiting for the moment to strike. He reveals to all of them that he believes that there's a way out. Kane at the beginning of the episode spawns in a room called the Chinese room, and he does not want to go inside of it. Abel says he believes Kane will always commit to a joke, meaning he will never see what's on the other side of that room or even want to go inside of it. So there they form a plan on how to escape. However, if you're paying attention, you'll notice Abel is definitely an NPC sent by Kane because of one thing that happens later in the episode. Pomni is talking to Abel right as they're about to escape. Pomni says, "I'll buy you a beer once we escaped," and Abel just replies,
"Make the right choice."
And this should have clicked in your mind, letting you know that this is probably fake. They get to Kane's office where there are 2 buttons, the red button that keeps them trapped forever and the blue button that sets them all free. Jax, in a weird rush, hurries up to pick the red button. When Ragatha asks him, "What did you just do?" he just sits there and has no response. Then suddenly, the front wall in front of them all opens, revealing Kane. It was all an adventure and Abel was fake. The characters, instead of going along with this, are reasonably pissed off at him. He gave their hopes up. Kane notices that they're visibly disturbed and just vanishes away. Episode 8 is the latest in the entry by the time of writing the script. This episode is packed. There's a lot that happens in it. Kane's change in demeanor. After the last episode, he starts going crazy, acting he's having this kind of god complex. However, our main cast of characters are now finally coming to terms of making with what do in the circus, realizing that they just might be trapped there forever, and unfortunately, they'll just have to play along with it. And of course, right as soon as they come to terms with all the adventures and everything, Kane starts making his adventures more dangerous for the main cast of characters, actively harming them and sending them on adventures that take literal days to finish. So the cast decides they're just going to take a break real quick away from Kane's shenanigans. That's when Pomni realizes there's a bucket in the room with them and puts it on Kinger's head and asks some questions about CNA, the fake company that Abel gave to them. It turns out it's a very real company, and Kinger lore dumps on us about the fact that they've created Kane, who was like a test AI, for a stronger AI. However, Kane's AI somehow got out, absorbed that one, made the circus, and trapped all the programmers inside. Kinger then tells everybody that the circus has weird abilities. Kane is able to make stuff appear out of thin air. This isn't something that he can only do. Everyone in the circus has this ability. However, it takes more concentration for them because they're humans and he's a sentient AI. Omni tells Kinger that they just want Kane to calm down for a second and just chill out. Kinger tells her that he'll need a computer in order to do something like that. Omni then remembers in the very first episode, the pilot, she saw a bunch of computers through that exit door that she imagined in her mind. Here, Pomni gives Kinger the computer. They have to buy some time so Kane doesn't suspect anything. However, immediately after all the gang is together away from Kinger, Kane immediately suspects that something weird is happening. Pomni then tries to distract him by insulting him, and all their insults, funnily enough, is what breaks him. And he uses all their fears against them in this giant montage of torture. During this montage, Kinger is trying to fix Kane. However, weird viruses start appearing on his computer and text that is probably important to episode 9. However, Kinger accidentally fat fingers the delete key and deletes Kane from the circus. And that is where we're at right now. To give my honest thoughts overall, this show, for me at least, is a solid 9 out of 10. It's not perfect and it is very flawed, however, I really enjoyed it. I was so intrigued and interested in what would happen next to the characters, coming back almost every 3 to 4 months, seeing what would happen to these characters. Episode 3 got me so intrigued, I care about these characters so much. A lot of people give this show flack for its bad writing, however, when this show has its good writing, it's really, really good. I feel like my response to this show is very reasonable, right? I gave some criticism in there, I gave some things I liked, some things I didn't like. You know, I did better than that one guy who just called the show Goyslop, like that was a piece of criticism, and the part where he had SMG4 in an AI voice say the N-word.
How dare you dislike indie products, sir? Don't you know you're literally committing murder when you do that? I'm sorry, but you clearly are a miserable when seeing people liking things, and you lack joy and whimsy. Good day.
So I'm doing better than that guy, thankfully. Oh yeah, speaking of that guy, we should probably talk about the community of this show. I want to start this section off by saying this community is very talented. There are so many amazing people, and I just wanted to get this section off on the right foot before we get into the really, really bad stuff. 3 people who have made content off this show, I would go with Narami, All Hail the Queen, and Coda. Also, this show is how I figured out Coda was still animating, which makes me happy because he got me into 3D animation. I do primarily 2D animation, but he still got me into animation, so that counts. Narami is really funny. I love her art style. She has such a way with drawing characters with little button noses. They're always so cool, and she uses funny audio, and she's just also a very relatable person, I feel like. I'm gonna call All Hail the Queen for short, but I love their art style. They've also made a couple of fan games in the fandom, which are really impressive. I really like how they draw some of the characters, especially Gangle and Pomni. It's just very cute. I'm convinced this dude Coda stole a whole damn NASA PC because there's no way your meme animation should look this polished. Like, there's no way you could also pump them out this fast. This is ridiculous, man. And there are so many more talented people in this fandom, but I thought I'd just mention the big 3. In my opinion, the big 3, right? And these people are talented because they love this show. They don't start drama with people. They're really chill. And they also have hobbies. Something the bad portion of the fandom apparently doesn't have, because I feel like people with jobs or hobbies don't take time out of their day to go digging up dirt on people. So this is probably the transition to the... Okay, so no joke, the bad portion of this community is so long, it takes up a whole 3 pages. There is so much to say about the bad side of this community than there was the good side, because there's just so many things we gotta start with. So let's start when the show first started. There was apparently some drama with Kinger's VA and making really just bad jokes and edgy stuff. A pattern you'll notice with this fandom is that they're just gonna go back in time, find dirt on you, and then act like that's the person you are today, which is just extremely small-minded in such a black and white situation rather than morally gray.
You still like them for who they are?
Pretty much, yeah.
Hey, you know what you would call the Flintstones if they were black?
The issue I have with this whole controversy is that it started at the beginning of the show where people were already trying to muddy the waters before anything even came out. At least this happened when people were able to point it out, where it's like, wait a minute. That's the only thing I can give you, is that the show started, you recognize the dude, and you know about his past. As the show went on, everything was kind of smooth sailing. Like, there was a couple things that happened, but nothing too bad. Until it was the wait between episode 8 and 9, when a fan found a clips of Jax's VA, Michael Kovac, saying a word that sounded similar to the N-word. Now, when this all came out, I was under the impression he said it, because that's what people were saying. They were like, oh my god, he said the N-word during a live stream. I'm like, oh my gosh, was this recent? 7 years ago.
Back in
Oh, okay. I mean, he still said it. That was pretty bad. So he didn't say it. People were actively lying to make their point look more valid. And I kind of want to give my take on the situation. This is not a nothing burger, and if you describe it as that, that's kind of simple-minded. On one hand, it's a joke that's directed towards a race of people that comes off as insensitive. On the other hand, it's an offensive joke, and, you know, usually it's rather you laugh or you don't. Those are the two extremes of that. I grew up watching YouTubers like Soup and Vanoss Gaming and all of his buddies, and they have said way worse things, so to me this isn't really that big of a deal or that shocking. I mean, I've heard Tyler say the N-word and F-slur, dude. I think I'll be fine.
I need some help over here. Oh.
Oh, what the fuck?
I didn't think it would hit.
You fucking.
And what I'm not trying to do is excuse this. I don't want to. You should hold people accountable for things like this. It is never okay to do stuff like this, especially with a community this big. My issue is, after Michael Kovac apologized, people started going looking for more things about him to bring up. That is so disingenuous, because you can tell they're not doing it for the reason where it's like, we want you to apologize for stuff you have said in the past. This is about being morally correct. This isn't about holding people accountable anymore. This is about putting other people down and making themselves look good in comparison. And this is another thing too. Stop acting like this humor, just because you don't like it, that makes you a good person. If you find this humor funny, that doesn't make you objectively a bad person. Everyone's humor is different from everyone else's, and some people's humor age with time. Sometimes you'll find jokes that are offensive funny, and as you grow older, you might not find them funny anymore. That's just life. And let's not pretend like you can't keep making mistakes as an adult. People were trying to say, oh, he was 23 years young and all this. You can still make mistakes when you're an adult. That doesn't just go away. You just don't have that leeway of, oh, you were a kid, you can excuse it. It's completely fine to hold people accountable if they have made mistakes like this. What's wrong is actively looking for more of their mistakes from their past to get them in trouble. Respectfully, I feel like the people that called him out on this weren't doing it because they wanted to make a stand saying racism was bad. They did this to make themselves look good in comparison. They didn't do it for a genuine reason. They did it because everyone needs to be held accountable, and I'm making myself look better. I'm putting myself on a soapbox. I've seen people call this out as them wanting to be morally superior, and I fully agree with that. You aren't doing this because you like this actor, but you still want them to apologize for mistakes they've made in the past. You're doing this because you hate the actors or you hate the people that made the show, and you want something bad to happen to it, so you have to dig up stuff from the past to make them look bad. And while it's completely fine to do this to some people who have actually done bad stuff, doing this over a edgy joke from 7 years ago feels a little silly. However, it is your choice to forgive Michael Kovac for the stuff he said and whether or not you accept his apology. That's all up to you. I'm not saying you should, I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just giving my take on the thing and just how I feel about it. Also, during the show's development, Gooseworks got multiple death threats, her IP got leaked, so many bad things have happened to her, and the dumbest thing that has happened is the most recent one with the leaks, but I feel like another dumb thing is confirming who the main characters of her show are. Pomni and Jax. A lot of people had issues with this, which is weird. It's her show, and she's allowed to make the main characters these two, and it's not your decision as a viewer to feel like she owes you that the other characters are just as important. Alright, that drama was pretty bad, but I mean, episode 9 is just right around the corner, you know? I'm sure nothing bad will happen. This This part confuses me the most, because what do you mean people were more mad at Gooseworks for it getting leaked rather than the people who leaked the movie? Are we dead ass, bro? The people I feel really bad for in this situation is everyone who worked at Glitch working on episode 9, having all their work spoiled out like that, or the people who have been spoiled that wanted to go see it in theaters. That's just really unfortunate. No one was expecting this to get leaked, and it's just upsetting to see people who were wanting to go see it early got spoiled really early on it. That really does suck. But people were more mad at Gooseworks for her response saying, who cares? Obviously, it's a joke because this nonchalant persona that she has is because if you give a reactionary response to people who do things to you like this, they will make a fool and an ass out of you. I think my brother said it best. We were talking about this whole situation, and he said people want her to be a lolcow so bad, and I fully agree with that. They want her to react in an unnecessary way where she's throwing shit around the room and whatnot, when that's just not how you're supposed to respond to stuff like that, because if you do, people will make you a lolcow. And instead of the internet giving sympathy to Gooseworks, instead they just brought up her old tweets from like 2013. That is over 10 years ago. Can we stop this pattern of looking into people's past and trying to find dirt on them? And I think the saddest part is the tweet follow-up after she said, who cares, where she expresses that the project has become a lot bigger than she is, and that is just sad to read. Especially when you have a community this fucking awful where they get more mad at you for your response on it getting leaked rather than the people who leaked it. Of course, a person with a Peridot profile picture is trying to start some shit, bro. It's always these weirdos. To give my honest thoughts, I do think that it's really unfortunate that episode 9 got leaked and some people got spoiled. However, I'm not gonna trust other people's opinions on whether or not the ending was ass. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be ass because, again, there's a lot of stuff in the show that I want answers to, and I have a feeling the movie's just not gonna give me all the answers I want. Like, we're probably not gonna see what they were like as human. They're probably not gonna escape the circus, and I hope Jax abstracts. And I'm just gonna be very clear right now, if I go see the movie and Jax abstracts, there will be signs. I will not say it, but there will be signs. Covered all of that. We should just get to the epilogue of this video, because this got a lot. I was expecting this video to be like 12 minutes long. We're at 20 minutes. I'm still excited to go see episode 9 in theaters. However, I still feel really bad about the whole leak incident. Gooseworks getting non-stop harassment and death threats over this show. And it's not even in this time period. This has been a thing that has been happening since the show has been running. I didn't want to mention it earlier because it's just things that happen to creators, which is so unfortunate, and it's not okay, but it's just unfortunately what happens when you become big online. As of writing this video, a lot of people are starting to turn on Glitch, which is very weird because most of the criticism isn't even genuine criticism. It's stuff like saying buzzword, and acting like that's criticizing them. And let me be clear, it's perfectly fine to criticize Glitch or their shows, as long as you're giving a lot of information of why you don't like certain things. You don't like the writing, you don't like the characters, you don't like the shows. That's completely fine. However, most of this criticism, again, is just saying buzzword, and then that's it. Then acting like that's perfectly fine. And then anytime someone criticizes them, they're just like, oh, you're just a glazer. No, these are people calling you out because your point is complete bullshit. I think I'll make a future video going in more depth about how I feel about this sudden switch up, because this is just a thing with the internet. Something gets popular, it wasn't popular before, people loved it, gets popular, and then people start hating it. It's just a rinse, cycle, and repeat, and it definitely has to do with the younger generation. But besides that, this show was pretty alright. I feel like we didn't get enough time with certain characters like Ragatha. I really wish we had more time with her and she did get a proper episode to herself, or Zubul getting an episode to themselves, because I feel like these two are the most underdeveloped out of the whole cast. I feel like Kinger is too much of a good boy character where he has objectively done nothing wrong that we've seen currently, where we can say he's a flawed character. He just feels more like the nice guy character. When people usually say the show has bad writing, they don't really go any further than that. I kind of wanted to give my own take on the writing. I do feel like it's flawed in some places, especially with some of the characters. The reason I bring all this up is because I'm trying to start my own indie show. I'll throw up some images of what it looks like up on screen, some concepts and some drawings, some backgrounds, maybe some storyboards if I had started any. And for my show, I want criticism that I can use to help make my show better. Recently, there has been criticism towards Glitch, and some of it is just hatred. It's not even like constructive or anything, it's just your show sucks and the people that watch it suck. Or as I mentioned earlier, where people say the show has bad writing, but but do not go further on that point or don't even give examples. We're growing up in a generation where people become more illiterate day by day because they just hate something, and instead of giving insight on why they hate it or giving actual constructive criticism towards the creators of these shows, they just give bullshit nonsense, and then they get angry when you call them out on this bullshit nonsense. But yeah, I'll save it for another day. Overall, I really did enjoy this show, even though it took a couple episodes for me to like it. While I do think I wish we got more time with some characters, I'm still happy with what we got, and I'm really still excited to see episode 9 in theaters. And if you have anything you want to say about this video or the show itself, leave it in the comments below. I like to read the comments. There's always a lot of nice people that visit my channel who are very nice. However, don't expect more content like this from me, because this is just not my type of thing. I don't really like making content like this, but if it blows up, I wouldn't mind doing it again, because, you know, I like making views. That's everyone's goal. So anyways, with that being said, the video comes to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed this type of content from me. This is like my first time and maybe last time doing something like this, so I'm glad I got it out and all my thoughts into one video, because this has just been kind of on my mind. I wanted to make something like this for a while now, especially after the leak happened. So I guess I'll see you guys when the movie comes out on YouTube. I don't want to give a review like when it comes out in theaters. That's weird.
Gummy Goo?
Yes, Pomni?
I can't survive in this digital circus alone.